The following is an exclusive presentation of the LSU Sports Radio Network. Getting ready for another week of LSU Fighting Tiger football.
Brennan in the pocket, stands tall, fires towards the end zone. Gonna be grabbed. Eric Gilbert, touchdown, Tigers.
Welcome in to the Coach O press conference, presented by Coca-Cola, official beverage partner of the LSU Tigers.
Tell the truth, Monday, I can't wait to see our team today.
A recap of last week and a look ahead to the battle coming up.
Always knew at LSU that you have to win. I know the expectation of LSU is to win, and my goal has always been to win at LSU.
Now, to get things started, from the LSU Sports Radio Network Capital One Studios, here is former Tiger Gordy Rush and the voice of your Fighting Tigers, Chris Blair.
Good Monday afternoon, Tiger fans, and welcome back into a game week. Of course, no action this past Saturday for LSU, but this Saturday expected to get back at it against the South Carolina Gamecocks. Kickoff time, of course, moved late last week. Kickoff just after 6 o'clock. This coming Saturday night. Coming up in just a bit today at 12:30, head coach Ed Ogeron will join us virtually for his weekly press conference. Once again, he'll set the tone for the week and then take questions from the media. Gamecocks, of course, coming off an historic win, badly needed one for head coach Will Muschamp and company. South Carolina snapped an 8-game losing streak to Auburn, which actually went back 87 years. They got the 30-22 victory at Williams-Brice Stadium. So the Tigers now 1-2 will host the Gamecocks, who stand at 2-2. These two teams will meet, for the 22nd time. And for the first time since the 2015 season, when South Carolina had to move the game from Columbia here to Tiger Stadium due to the devastating floods in the Palmetto State, LSU won over the Gamecocks that day 45-24, effectively leading to the old ball coach, Steve Spurrier, resigning a couple of days later. Different year, different teams, no doubt. Gordy Rush, before we scout the Gamecocks coming up later in the show, Coach O said it last week following the postponement of the Florida game. I imagine he's going to talk about it today. The focus is on getting healthy and improving LSU regardless of when or who you play.
Absolutely, and I got a chance to go out to practice last week, Chris, and it was good to see Ed Ingram get back out there. And obviously we'll find out a little bit more about Miles Brennan, who took some hard shots against Missouri, but getting more guys out there, and I think giving this defense a chance now to Coach Pelini to simplify some things, to execute technique, and clean up some of the errors that they've had in the first couple games.
We always talk about it, and teams, you can always kind of sense the tone or the feeling of a team from what you could tell. Again, not trying to break down the X's and O's, but just the tone of practice, the mood and feeling of the team last week.
A lot of good energy, and talking to some people out there. Obviously the Missouri loss really hit home, and I think it was a chance for that leadership committee to meet behind closed doors, talk about where they want to go, how do they fix some of these problems. So I was really left very positive feeling after watching practice on Wednesday.
Let's talk a little bit about it, because Coach O last week, again, getting ready for that Florida game, which eventually would not happen, talked about simplifying. Said he talked to both Steve Ensminger and Bo Pelini about simplifying things. And, talking to a lot of football people, and I think you and I discussed it a couple of weeks ago, when you lose spring football, a lot of times coaches and even former players will tell you the defense suffers the most. Not to mention the fact LSU is going to install a new defense going into the spring. But from what you can tell, from what you've gathered, what does simplify the defense? What do you think that means for LSU going into this matchup Saturday?
Well, definitely going into a game, instead of perhaps having, 12 or 14 different calls, to simplify on 4 or 5 and to run 4 or 5 defenses. And I think, Chris, the way you get around it, and we've seen some players, I've seen some teams that have been successful simplifying it, like Arkansas, where they run 4 or 5 base defenses, but they show 3 different things. And so there's a creative way to do that. I think defensively, when you see some of the problems that LSU has had, lack of aggression or mistakes, the players thinking too much, and they're not reactive, they're not being instinctive. Defense is an instinctive game, Chris, and I think taking less out of their head, lining them up and giving them a chance to play football, that's going to help LSU defensively.
Obviously, late last week, we all found out, as you mentioned to start the show, that there were some bumps and bruises, maybe even more so coming off that Missouri game, which obviously is very important to LSU. You mentioned Miles Brennan. I imagine if that's not the first question for Coach O today, it'll be near the top. Obviously, Eric Gilbert was phenomenal in the opening moments of the game, got banged up, did come back, but not sure how much, close to 100%. And also Terrace Marshall, who was unstoppable, needed probably a week plus of rest to get back to 100%. Obviously, it's an opportunity for the two young freshmen to get some reps, much-needed reps. Not as though they haven't been taking reps, but it was probably a little different late last week, and maybe even we'll find out this week as well.
No question. If they have to play, the freshmen have to play, they've had an extra week to get some work in with the ones. And I can't tell you how important that is. It's a big difference of timing working with the ones versus the twos. Secondly, the obvious, you didn't have to go start at the Swamp, and had we played down in Florida, they were going to fill the stands up. So a little bit different feeling with that. And yet, I think the big thing is Miles Brennan. And, I had a chance to see Miles, and I'll tell you, there was nothing extreme with Miles and seeing him, but I'm certainly not a trainer or a doctor, and I knew he took some shots. And the good news is that last week he definitely was going to play. So there's another game possibly you have him back for. All
right. Again, it'll be a 6:05 thereabouts kickoff Saturday night in Death Valley. Obviously, COVID protocols will be a 25% capacity. But I got to believe if you're Coach Ed Ogeron and you're the players, it seems a long time ago, the last time they played at Tiger Stadium to open the season when they play Saturday, almost a month.
No question. I think it's the right matchup to be able to come back and bounce back from the Missouri game, to play that game at night in Tiger Stadium, hopefully a little bit livelier environment than what they played, in Missouri and Vanderbilt. I think it'll be a nice welcome home.
Real quickly, before we take our first break, and again, coming up, we'll get a scouting report on South Carolina, who, again, 2-2 on the year, before we hand it off to Coach Ed Ogeron at the bottom half of the hour. We talked about defense. We talked about simplification. Offensively, again, the numbers look pretty good for LSU. They're putting points on the board. They're racking up yards. Obviously, 0 for 10 on third down. That's the first thing that jumps off the page. But offensively, what do you think LSU's striving to do and take a step forward in the game this week?
I think a little bit more balance offensively. LSU's got to be able to run the ball a little bit more effectively. Ed Ingram is, I think, slated to return. Like I said, I saw him at practice last week. He missed the Missouri game. That's potentially your best offensive lineman. And I think you bring up the third downs. And I think one of the things that contributes to that third down is that LSU's not staying on schedule. Too many third and longs and making it even harder to convert. I think running the football, keeping Miles Brennan in the passing game out of the third and longs, and also first half, we talked about in the broadcast, LSU was behind time of possession 2-1, 20 to 10 minutes, and that's a long time for a defense that's having some issues to be out in the football field. I think running the football cures some things.
Speaking of third downs, coming up in the next segment, we'll talk about South Carolina. Third downs and third down conversions, very important as part of their win this past Saturday at home against Auburn. Want to remind you, fans, when the Tigers win, you win. All you have to do is enter promo code LSU50 the Monday after an LSU football victory, and you'll receive 50% off your online order at papajohns.com. So guess what? We'll be back to remind you, hopefully next Monday, your chance to do so. Better ingredients, better pizza, Papa John's. We'll continue getting you ready for the Coach O press conference presented by Coca-Cola coming up at the bottom half of the hour. We'll talk about the Gamecocks of South Carolina when we return on the LSU Sports Radio Network.
Stadium seats may have been replaced with recliners. Tailgates outside the stadium have been swapped for the ones in the backyard. And thousands of screaming fans have been replaced by one screaming baby. But the only thing that hasn't changed? Us, watching the game together.
It's game time, baby.
Test your Tigers knowledge by saying LSU Trivia into your Contour voice remote to enhance your game day experience. Watch together, play together, win together, even if you're not actually together. Cox, bringing us closer.
People's Health is your Medicare health team, and People's Health is proud to sponsor your LSU Tiger teams. People's Health knows that when it comes to health care, what works is teamwork. Every People's Health Plan member is backed by a Medicare health team of doctors, nurses, pharmacists, and other health professionals. Whatever your health goals,
Our team's goal is to help you enjoy the best health possible. So compare your Medicare coverage to a People's Health Medicare Advantage plan. Call for your free information kit. People's Health is the official health plan of LSU Athletics.
When the ground shifts beneath you, you can run or you can stand firm. At LSU, our stand is rock solid. Our blood runs hot, even as our heads stay cool. Because now is a pivotal moment in the fight for our future. And we refuse to back down when the world needs solutions. LSU, fierce for the future.
Whatever you bring more. Whatever you personally bring to the SEC table, bring more. Get up earlier, sing and yell and stomp louder. Enough never is. Not here. Between the magnolias and the azaleas, legends and lore regale us, downright implore us. Bring everything you got, and then bring more.
Continuing with the Coach O press conference, presented by Coca-Cola. Coming up, we'll hear direct from the coach. But once again, here are your hosts, Gordy and Chris.
Getting ready for the Tigers get back on the field. That's right, this Saturday night, around 6:05, Tigers will kick it off against the Gamecocks of South Carolina. Again, it'll be the 22nd meeting all-time, first since the 2015 season, in a game that should have been played in Columbia, but due to the flooding, had to bring that game to Baton Rouge. And, of course, LSU able to get a big win over the Gamecocks in that last meeting. All right, Gordy, let's talk about South Carolina. As I mentioned, 2-2, won over Vandy in Nashville. How about this, 41-7? That sounds familiar. They got the win this past Saturday, 30-22 over Auburn at home at Williams-Brice. Lost the opener 31-27 to Tennessee at home, and then 38-24 fell to Florida in the Swamp. Now, there's nothing flashy about the Gamecocks, and that's not putting them down. They're very workmanlike in the way that they play football. And against Auburn, they were very opportunistic. Had 3 interceptions from Bo Nix, and it led to 3 touchdowns for South Carolina. And the one thing I took away from watching that game was it was a physical game, and South Carolina did not back down from Auburn. Auburn got a couple of good sticks in early, and then South Carolina able to deliver the blows as well.
It's funny, that's been my takeaway. Looking at South Carolina on film, they are physical. And we've seen so many defenses struggle, especially in the west side. We've seen some high-scoring affairs. Not that South Carolina hadn't had, games, at least respectable, I guess, in COVID in the 20s and 30s. But South Carolina, physical on defense, that's a trademark of Will Muschamp's football team. And a couple other takeaways for me, I think Mike Bobo, bringing Mike Bobo back, they're balanced on offense, and get this, after 4 games, South Carolina is outgaining an opponent. It's been a while since you could say that in SEC play, 372 to 368. You mentioned third down conversions, 42% to 28% what they're holding people to. That's a big check for them, and they're +2 in the turnover. And so Will Muschamp, I think, bringing Mike Bobo in to complement some of the good things he's done on defense, it's been a nice mix so far after 4 games.
The offensive line looked impressive to me again on Saturday. They were very aggressive and allowed both Kevin Harris and Deshaun Fenwick really to lead the ground attack. And again, nothing flashy about it, but when they needed hard yards, they were able to find it. A lot of that due to the battles there in the trenches. And Colin Hill, who came along with Mike Bobo from Colorado State, transfer quarterback, again, not flashy. That seems to be the theme here, but he can get it done. And his offensive line, allowed just 1 sack to Auburn, which I think played in the Gamecocks' favor, obviously. But when he's allowed to sit in the pocket, he's got a favorite target, that's Shi Smith, a heck of an athlete. He had 8 catches, 76 yards, and a huge touchdown in that game. So, again, they can get it done, especially when Hill's able to stay in the pocket and they're not asking him to do anything in the run game.
You asked me last segment about LSU and struggling on third down against Missouri, and they were not staying on schedule. That's what you see out of this South Carolina offense. Nothing glamorous. When you look at Colin Hill's numbers, 842 yards passing in 4 games, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 62% completion. But it's the high percentage stuff. It's the smaller yard things. He's keeping them on schedule. They're converting 42% of their first downs. So complement that with the way they're playing defensively. It's been a good mix.
Will Muschamp, again, his motto, I think, even when he was at Florida as a head coach, was, pack a lunch. It's we're going to be a physical team, try to be a physical team at least. And when you look at South Carolina defensively, I think it starts up front. Keir Thomas, he just wreaked havoc all day for Bo Nix. Had 8 tackles, all 8 were solo, 2 for a loss, had 2 sacks. And then on the back end, it was kind of a coming out party for J.C. Horn, of course, who fans know, the son of former Saint Joe Horn. His assignment, stay on Seth Williams.
Right.
And Auburn, they've got a couple of good receivers, but they just kept going back to Williams, and Horn got challenged time and time again, 2 interceptions and 4 pass breakups. His job was to shadow Seth Williams, and everybody at Williams-Brice knew that's where Nix was going, and so did J.C. Horn.
Yeah, Horn's been fantastic. 6 pass breakups on the season, and definitely his best game to date out there. They're really solid on the defensive side. Ernest Jones, 40. He actually has the linebacker has 30. Let me go back and look at these tackles. He's at 36 tackles at this pace. And that's a really good pace for 4 football games. 21 of them are solo. They return 6 of their top 8 tacklers, Chris, on defense. Again, this is what you expect out of Will Muschamp. They're going to be a blue collar defense. They're going to come up and hit you, and they do that.
One of the interesting things you talk about, and when you look at South Carolina's stats, they have outperformed their opponents overall in a lot of categories. But what was interesting about the game on Saturday, again, field position and turnovers were the key for the Gamecocks winning and for Auburn, who had a chance driving deep. Eventually, literally ran out of time because the clock was rolled off after a hands to the face penalty. But when you look at yards per carry, yards per catch, Auburn won. When you look at time of possession, I think it was 31 to 28 and change. So pretty similar there. It was the turnovers and the fact that Kroger, who I believe was one of the special teams players of the week, had 5 punts, 3 inside the 20 and 1 touchback, and it made things difficult for Auburn.
Playing disciplined football, and go back to Muschamp's time at Florida, and you remember the fights on the sideline, and they continue to beat themselves. This team is not doing that. And again, I like the momentum that South Carolina has. They had a chance to win that opener against Tennessee. A lot of people up there think they should have beat that game. They were in the game against Florida down in the Swamp in week 2. They've been competitive in every football game they've been in.
All right, we'll see you Saturday night in Death Valley.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Gordy. Now time for head coach Ed Ogeron.
Find our defense, our communication, our tackling, our fundamentals. On offense, we started with the goal line, especially at the 1-yard line, making better choices at the 1-yard line. I do believe we fixed it. On third down, identifying the problems on third down, fixing them, better scheme, better execution. On special teams, kickoff coverage. So that was a big emphasis for us last week. We started game planning on Florida, as you guys know. And then Wednesday, we found out we weren't playing Florida, so we got to turn around and game plan some of South Carolina. On Wednesday and Thursday, our guys had Friday and Saturday off. I talked to Coach Moffitt. They were rested in the weight room today, ready to go. Now it's on to South Carolina. We look forward to being back in LSU Tiger Stadium, Death Valley, Saturday night. Hopefully 25,000 people are going to be there, loud and proud. Can't wait to get off that bus or that Tiger Walk and hear our guys, hear our own stadium, and get that energy going. Will Muschamp has done a tremendous job with the South Carolina team. They got a two-win winning streak right now. Played great against Auburn. Mike Bobo has done a tremendous job with his offense. He's brought his quarterback with him. They're a pro-style offense with different formations. We'll see some 21. We'll see some I-back. We haven't seen yet this year much. He runs out of a pro set and also out of a spread set. The quarterback he brought back, Colin Hill, does a great job of operating his offense. Number 20, Kevin Harris, is an outstanding back. And number 13, Shi Smith, is one of the best players in the conference. He has 34 catches, 347 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Very fast, very elusive. On defense, he's a 4-3 guy. Will has always done a tremendous job with his defenses. His defenses up front are very active, a lot of stunts. Play zone coverage, play man coverage, and zone blitz. It's going to be a tremendous challenge for us. We look forward to seeing our guys today on Tell the Truth Monday, getting back to playing LSU style of football. Any questions?
Hey, Coach O, Garland Gillen, Fox 8 New Orleans. Last Wednesday on the conference call, you said that Miles was doubtful for the game on Saturday. if y'all would have played that game, would he have suited up? And can you update his condition? Is he going to practice early in the week?
Yeah, he was not going to play last week. We expected him back early during the week. I just talked to Jack. He's questionable. It's taking a little bit more time for him to heal, and he's going to be questionable for the game.
Hey, Matt Moscona from ESPN Baton Rouge. Two-part. Could you, to whatever degree you can, elaborate on what Miles' issue is? And then the other thing is, if you would, J.C. Horn, the defensive back from South Carolina, could you kind of give us a thumbnail on him? He had a really big week this past week, and what you expect with him and Terrace in that matchup?
Yeah, first of all, he's got good genes. Joe Horn's his son, and very good, especially in press coverage. Gets his hands on you, will be tight, puts his hands around you, very tight coverage, has a nose for the football. We evaluated him. He's a great corner, and I know Joe's proud of him. Miles has a significant injury to his lower body, something that we do believe is going to heal. It's taking a little bit more time to heal, and we thought he'd be back today, but he's not, and I don't know if he's going to play this game.
I think I'm on good. Coach, two quick questions. First of all, with the coronavirus situation and Coach Mullen having it, Coach Saban, they thought had it, have you been able to avoid it? I don't know if we've asked you personally. And second of all, we hear South Carolina described as a tough team. How do you have to match their toughness, their grit Saturday night? Yeah, first of all, we have to be aware, follow the protocol, and hopefully that I'm able to stay free of it during the season. And I think that it would be tough to be away from our football team. And I can understand Coach Saban not wanting to be away from his team, anybody. This is the time of year that we need to be with our football team. So, yes, South Carolina is a tough team. They have grit. We're going to have some tough practices. We have to find out about ourselves. I like to pride ourselves in being tough, but we're going to find out on Saturday who can be the toughest team.
And following up with, kind of the quarterback situation, you had another week with your true freshman back there preparing again for the possibility of playing. What have you seen the growth for them? Has anybody kind of stepped forward yet to you?
To be honest, they both had fantastic weeks. Both of them are very impressive. I believe both of those guys have NFL talent, quarterback. Now, they haven't been in the live action. They're both freshmen, but we're going to practice both of those quarterbacks this week. We're going to tell them whoever has the best week is going to start. And I plan on giving both of them a chance during the game. Either one starts. I want to see what they can do, and the only way to do it is under live action.
Yeah, to kind of build on that, I mean, I imagine you have to have kind of a conversation with some of these guys about what they're facing. I guess just kind of how have they handled that, those two true freshmen? And also, I mean, is it a situation where it's purely who's looking better, or is it you're looking for a certain thing out of that quarterback?
I think it's a combination of both. We'll see what South Carolina gives us on defense and who best suits to play it. But they got to have a good week. We're not going to give it to anybody. They're going to have to perform. Last week both of them were ready to start in the swamp, and so they got prepared for that. They didn't know who was going to start, so it's going to be the same thing this week. Now we're playing at home, which should be easier for them, but obviously being the first game for any one of them is going to be a little nervousness, but I think both of them can handle it.
Hey, Coach. I know you mentioned also last week that Terrace and Eric were a little questionable as well. I mean, is there any update on those guys and if they're going to be available this week as well?
Yeah, I think both of them will be available. I talked to Jack today. Both of them are going to practice today. They should be fine.
Hey, Coach, just wondering, what did you find in your self-scout? You had some time to kind of look at yourselves and figure out maybe some quick areas that you can fix.
Yeah. Shooting ourselves in the foot. It's all about us making mistakes, communication, not having the right gap fits, not aligning the formations, not making the proper calls, guys running wide open down the field. It all comes down to communication. It all comes down to simplification, what our guys can handle. I think this week we did a lot of soul searching on what we're telling the guys, how we're telling them, it's not how much we know, it's how much they know. And they've got to be able to do that on the field. So most of all, it was about us shooting ourselves in the foot.
Hey, Coach Garland again with a follow-up. I think Finley, when he enrolled at LSU, he was in the 260 range weight. I think he's down to about 240.
Yeah.
I think we know him as a passer, but can he also make moves now, getting that lower weight down to 240?
Yeah, I think it's helped him. He scrambled. We had a 2-minute drill on Thursday. He scrambled out of there. Looked very, very good. And, obviously Max is very fast. I think Max is comparable in speed to Joe Burrow, a little bit faster. Max is a better scrambler than TJ. He's more of a dual threat quarterback. But if so, TJ can move out of the pocket and avoid the rush.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona again. I have a COVID question, if I could. There's a really extensive feature at SI today about contact tracing being even a bigger issue, really, than positive tests. I'm curious, and part of the crux, and I don't know if you had a chance to read it yet, but Todd Berry and Mac Rhodes, a lot of coaches and ADs have said they're considering allowing players the opportunity to test out of contact tracing, where they have to sit out for 14 days. Have you all as a staff or as an athletic department talked about that? Do you have a feeling on that generally?
Yeah, we have talked about that with Shelley, with Jack. We talked about that obviously in August. We had a lot of talks on the Zoom meetings in the SEC. That was discussed on how we could do that, how we can get out of it, and not getting guys quarantined for 14 days. Because the thing happens, a guy gets quarantined for 14 days, he doesn't have COVID, he can come back and get the COVID. It's like a domino effect. So how do we stop the domino effect? We have discussed that.
Sorry, taking notes. Just to follow up, you talked about the communication, and I was just curious, is that to the field or on the field that you are finding that you're having the most?
Mostly on the field. Now, we had one miscommunication last week against Missouri. They had one personnel grouping in the game. We called one defense. They changed the personnel grouping. We changed the defense. And not everybody got the call. And they should have. And the call was sent in. So that was one from the sideline that we should have done a better job. The other ones were communication within the defensive scheme on the field.
Hey, Coach Jared Joseph, Fox 44. Is there a scenario where this game, if TJ or Max goes, that one of the freshmen could end up being the hot hand that rides the quarterback position for the rest of the season?
No, Miles has shown that he can be our quarterback. I mean, he's had 3 phenomenal football games. We like Miles, but hey, I'm telling you, these 2 young quarterbacks are great players, and I'm anxious to see what they can do, and we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But right now, Miles is our starting quarterback.
Hey, Ed, Wilson Alexander from the Advocate, kind of following up more on this quarterback situation a little bit. How important would it be for y'all to really get the running game going if you do have to go with one of these true freshmen? Last week against Missouri, only rushing for
really
49
important.
yards.
Yeah, and I should have said that on offense. That was the running game on first down. I should have said that. We worked hard on that last week. It's really important, this game and any game, for us to get the running game going. That's going to set up the pass. We cannot be one-dimensional. We have to be able to block better up front. We have to be able to run the football better in order to not get behind on 2nd and 10, 3rd and 10, and we got to get in the manageable downs.
Still going along with the quarterback situation, kind of a 2-part question here. One, I mean, how, in your experience with true freshmen stepping in for the first time, how do you go through that conversation, sitting them down, preparing them for something like this, and at what point in the week do you let them know which one's going in? I mean, is that something that could lead all the way up to the game for them?
I think, to be fair to them, after Thursday's practice, we should tell them. I think, Friday morning I'll sit down and talk to them and tell them I believe in them, tell them they'll be fine. Just do the things that they can do. That's why they were recruited here. That's why they came here. Both of those guys, I think it really helped that they were here last spring. And although we didn't have spring football, that they matured a lot. They've been in the meetings a lot. They know our offense. And again, Steve's going to have to do what they can do. He knows what both of them can do. Call the game that they can manage the game.
Hey, Coach, Ben Briner from the State Newspaper. What kind of progress did you see from South Carolina's offensive line from the beginning of the year compared to last game when they kind of changed up the rotation?
We were talking about them this morning. Obviously, I coached the defensive line. We had an offensive line scouting report, an extensive scouting report on each one of the young men. They're very good on their double-team blocks. They're very well coached. Their center can handle a nose tackle one-on-one. He'll reach him, in our game, a nose tackle can't get handled by a center. He's got to get double-teamed. I think they're better run blockers right now. They are in pass protection. They've struggled in pass protection. That's why they made a change. I think they're getting better at it. But their quick game enables them to hide maybe a guy that's not as strong in pass protection, a better run game protector. Their quick game with their quarterback and their number 13 is phenomenal. The play action game, their sprints and their boots. So they have ways to cover for that.
Hey, Coach Joe, this is William with Tiger Rag Magazine. I want to ask this question because it is 2020. What's the preparation like behind TJ and Max in case something really goes bad with injuries? Who do you have to prepare as an emergency guy who maybe can run the offense if possible? Yeah, we have a couple guys that are on our team that we feel that can go in and operate. I see that AJ will probably be the third team guy today. We have a couple of guys that have been with us for a while, and they can go in there and operate the game. Now, obviously, it's not going to be the same as Max and TJ, but it's a good question. We have to be prepared for that.
Hey, Coach, good afternoon. During the offseason, I spoke to Will Muschamp, and he said he was happy for you and the staff. He said he knew a lot of guys on the staff when you won the national title and everything. It seems like he's always a very fiery competitor and a kind of a survivor. Just what are your thoughts on him as a head coach?
He's a great guy. I love him. I love talking to him. He's always been a friend, always been a good guy, great defensive coach. I'm happy to see him having success. He's not a big ego guy. Gets along with everybody. And got to credit him. He's got his football team playing very well. He made a change on offense. You can see the difference. His defense is playing with fire. They're playing with toughness. That number tight end that plays blocked. He reminds me of Foster Morrow because they have some toughness in him. So, they're playing his temperament. That's who he is.
Hey, Coach, you had mentioned South Carolina's running back Kevin Harris in your opening comments. Can you just expand on what you think of him and the season he's having so far?
Yeah, he's hard to tackle. He's hard to get down with one guy. He sees the hole, outstanding. He can block. He has vision. He breaks tackles, and he can catch the ball out the backfield. He's all around back.
Hey, Coach, Jeff Duncan at The Athletic. How much time have you had, or have you had a chance to evaluate J.C. Horn, their star cornerback at South Carolina? And what are your impressions of him?
Yeah, we talked about him yesterday. We have a scouting report. We have advanced scouts that do the work, and they watch every game, and they give us a scouting report. He's a great press guy. He's very handsy, and in a competitive way, a good way to say it. Obviously, he has great genes. He's one of the top corners. He's playing very well. He's an open field tackler, plays the ball very well. Outstanding player.
And I'm just curious what the message is this week. Are you trying to light a fire under their butt, or are you trying to get them to play controlled, capable of what they can do?
No, I think we need to play with a lot of energy. I think we should be rested. I told the guys this last week, press the restart button. Let's go. Come to work. Coaches come to work positive. I started today with a positive mindset with our coaching staff, a positive mindset to win the football game. Let's coach every day. Let's do our best job coaching. I'm going to ask our players, I'm going to tell them, listen, I ask the coaches to give us our very best. Let's give our very best in practice, because when you go back and you don't play well, you got to look at your practices. And we've been up and down in practice. Last week we put 3 practices together, great practice. This week we got to put 4, and leading up to the game. I think it's not more or less being fired up on Saturday. It's about being fired up today. and get better today because we got a lot of improving to do on LSU, not South Carolina, on LSU.
Hey, Coach, going back to the J.C. Horn, Terrace Marshall matchup, what do you think Marshall's strengths could be to help him have an advantage against Horn on Saturday?
Well, Marshall has an advantage of almost most guys because of his athletic ability and his length. And, I'm sure we're going to find ways that Terrence is going to move around. He will not only be against Horn. I mean, there'll be some situation where he's in the slot, some situation where he's on the other side of the field. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Hey, Ed Wilson, I'm from the Advocate again. You talked about hitting the reset button and trying to get some better practices. Do you think that maybe it could help y'all in some ways that you didn't actually have the Florida game, or would you rather have that game to continue getting better? Or did you like having time off?
Good question. Obviously, if we were going to play Florida, it was going to be good. But I come to find out, talking to Jack, our players were tired. Our players were beat up. They needed the time off. Talking to Tommy, it seemed like our guys came back today re-energized. We had a few guys banged up that needed the weekend to get a little bit better. I thought having the weekend off would help Miles, but obviously it hasn't, so we're going to have to deal with that, the task at hand. But it turned out to be a good thing for us. Our guys could get some rest. We need to build off of this because we had 2 extra days on South Carolina, so we should be ahead this week.
Coach, how did you shift gears and what did you work on differently after the game was canceled last week? And one other question, with a 1-2 start, where do you feel your team leadership and chemistry is?
Yeah, let me go with the last one. First of all, our guys have had a great attitude. And the only thing I asked them to do, I told them, we got to coach you better. You guys just stay together for me. And it's been pretty good. Having a 1-2 start and coming off a championship team, it looks like the guys will have a great mindset. They're eager to win, take it one game at a time. We shifted gears last Tuesday night. I heard that the game may be canceled. So I told the coaches to get ready to work on first down South Carolina on Wednesday. I think we found out for sure on Wednesday morning, something like that. So that's when we shifted gears. But the whole week, Scooter, was about fixing LSU. We had a lot of things to fix. Wasn't so much game planning against Florida because of the things that we put on film weren't fixed. We're going to see them again, so we had to make sure those were fixed.
Okay, we'll wrap up with Matt.
Hey, I know your first year in Baton Rouge was 2015. It was the last time LSU and South Carolina played. That was kind of a wild game where it got moved to Baton Rouge. That week and that game in Baton Rouge.
You got cut out there, Matt. Can you tell me the last part of your question?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Coach. Just the 2015 game was your first year in Baton Rouge. The game that was supposed to be in Columbia got moved to Baton Rouge. If you could just share your memories of that week. It was you're playing another odd game against South Carolina in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, it was a home game for them. I think they were playing their fight song. We didn't get to play. We didn't get to play our stuff. It was kind of different. We were an away team. That's all I remember. A little different in Tiger Stadium.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, guys. Go Tigers.
There you have it from the head man, head coach Ed Ogeron, as the Tigers get set to return to the field against the South Carolina Gamecocks coming up Saturday night in Death Valley. Kickoff again just after 6 o'clock. Again, quarterbacks this week. Going to be an emphasis. Miles Brennan questionable for the game. Coach O letting us all know a few moments ago, and now the 2 true freshmen will prepare if the possibility arises that they may take the field and lead the Tigers offensively. We'll take a quick break, step aside. We come back, some program notes, and then we'll close it up after these words on the LSU Sports Radio Network. Support your LSU Tigers with Hancock Whitney, the official bank of LSU Athletics. From game day to the offseason, Hancock Whitney LSU credit and debit cards are a big win for any Tiger fan. Want to get your paws on these cards? Well, apply online or visit HancockWhitney.com/LSU. Hancock Whitney Bank, member FDIC. All accounts subject to credit approval. Terms and conditions may apply.
If this year has taught us anything, It's we can all do more than we ever thought possible. That compassion can persevere through the greatest challenge, and that ingenuity and excellence can transform us forever. At Our Lady of the Lake, we see each person, never simply the patient, because health is a human experience. Our Lady of the Lake, the official healthcare provider of LSU Athletics.
Hey, Tiger fans, LSU wants to remind you to defend the spread by masking up. The best defense against the spread is in your face coverage. Remember to wear your mask in public. Here are some quick and easy steps to stay well. Always wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Avoid touching your face. Clean and disinfect objects or surfaces around you, and stay home if you are feeling sick. Thank you for doing your part. One team, one heartbeat. Go Tigers!
You can't just watch. Basically impossible, roundly implausible, to enter the gates of the SEC and be a faint spectator, a fly on the wall, not at all. Excuse yourself to lose yourself in something bigger. The traditions, the superstitions, the fight song in every rendition. You can't just watch, not in the home of more.
Back to wrap up today's Coach O press conference, presented by Coca-Cola. Once again, here is Chris Blair.
South Carolina travels in from the Palmetto State this coming Saturday night to face your Fighting Tigers. Well, the media had their chance today. It's your chance to talk with the coach this coming Wednesday night, 7 o'clock on the Ed Ogeron Show, presented by Hancock Whitney, live from TJ Ribs. And I can tell you, I, for one, excited to be back there at TJ Ribs coming up on Wednesday. Then on Saturday afternoon, our MVPs, Brandon Taylor, Marlon Fabright, and Hunt Palmer will crank up the coverage with LSU Game Day beginning at 4 o'clock. And later, former Tigers Doug Morrow and Gordy Rush will join me for the play-by-play action of the Gamecocks and Tigers just after 6. That's going to do it for us on this week's Coach O press conference presented by Coca-Cola. Thanks as always to Gordy Rush and to you for tuning in. This is Chris Blair saying so long, everybody. Have a great week, and go Tigers.
This has been the Coach O press conference.
Go Tigers.
Presented by Coca-Cola. For the very latest on Fighting Tiger football, follow them on Twitter at LSU Football. Online anytime at lsusports.net or download the all-new LSU Sports mobile app. The Coach O press conference is an exclusive presentation of the LSU Sports Radio Network and Outfront Sports.